Number 1, call to order.
Trustees present this evening are Trustee Lorenzo Calderon Jr., Trustee Contreras, Trustee Pacheco, and Trustee Magallanes, with Trustee Alvarado absent. You have a quorum.
Number 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Jimenez, can you guide us?
Absolutely. Please rise. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
B, presentation. Number 1, baseball IVL champions. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Ms. Magallanes. It is with great honor that I have this opportunity to present to the board and to our community our CIF baseball championship team here with us tonight. The team that made history in Calexico as our first baseball team ever to win the CIF championship. So I have a few words I'm going to share, but before that, let's just give them a big round of applause. You know, we had a pretty exciting season this year with our multiple sports in Calexico Unified School District. We had our cheerleaders also winning CIF. We had some of our wrestlers in our wrestling team, our tennis players, our soccer team as well won league championship and proceeded on to CIF. Our football team did really well as well this year, and I'm not forgetting. I'm sure there's a volleyball team as well. So we had a very exciting year in Calexico athletics this year, and I know that that's just going to continue in the years to come. But we're here tonight culminating our school year and culminating the night with our baseball team. I've personally had the great opportunity of attending a couple of the baseball games. I wish I could have attended more and more games from different sports, but I try to make it out there as much as I possibly can. And I'll tell you, those games were exciting, and win or lose, at one point or the other throughout the game, they were nail biters, and they could have gone either way. And our students, our baseball players here, they just persevered. They played with tenacity. They didn't give up. They didn't quit. And at the end of the day, the fruit of their labor paid off because they are now the CIF champions. And so we're very, very proud of them. So, gentlemen, thank you for all your hard work, for your discipline, for your dedication. And it's that type of hard work, it's that type of discipline and dedication that's going to serve you well, not only on the baseball field, but in life. So take those skills that you learned, the responsibility, the working hard, the being there for one another. Take that in whatever you do, and some of you are coming back next year, and some of you are seniors and graduating. But whatever you do, take what you learn on the baseball field and apply it to your personal and professional lives, and it will continue to serve you well. We have some notable recognitions here tonight within our baseball team. Of course, it's a team effort, and they all work together to win the CIF championship. There was a few of our players also that have recently been recognized for some notable recognitions. I'd like to mention right now that Randy Baez. Randy, are you here with us? Randy, if you could stand up. Randy Baez, Andres Ontiveros. Is Andres here with us? Andres, please stand up. Randy and Andres were named all IVL baseball first team. So let's give them a round of applause. You guys could have a seat if you like. And I'd like to ask Mr. Antonio Lopez, Tony, Orlando Llamas, Leo Vélez, as they were named all VIL baseball second team. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, gentlemen. And I'd like to also ask Mr. Nick Navarro if he could stand up. And I saw his picture on the front cover of a newspaper out there as receiving a badge for the CIF Sportsmanship Award. So, round of applause for Mr. Navarro. And last but certainly not least, our fearless baseball leader coach, Mr. Ricky Guzman, who was named Coach of the Year. Mr. Guzman. So this group of players right here and their coaching staff, board members and community, they won the CIF Southern Division, San Diego Division championship with a 12-4 victory over Bishop High. That was a pretty decisive victory, no questions asked. Congratulations, guys. At this time, we're going to call your names, and we have our traditional championship T-shirt for you. And when I call your names, if you could please come up, stand up in front of the dais right here. And then I'll ask our board members if they could stand up also and shake your hands, and then we'll take a picture right afterwards. And then we'll take it from there. Sounds good? All right, so we're going to start with Randy Baez. And Randy, if you could come up here and grab your T-shirt. You guys could open up your T-shirts and show them off. Right up here, Randy. Right up here. Andre Tapia. Christian Aguilera. Manuel Cano. Leo Vélez. Nick Navarro. Orlando Llamas. Antonio Lopez. Jose Ortega. Ian Flores. Andres Ontiveros. And Derek Carrillo. Christian Aguilera. And who else? And Manuel Cano. Right. Yeah, come right up in the front, gentlemen. And at this point, I would also like to introduce to the board and the community a very, very important person who does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work to support the team, be successful, and earns just as much of all of the recognition for her work on this in the baseball program, and that is team manager Alexia Iniguez. Oftentimes, it's those people that are supporting the team behind the scenes that make a humongous difference for their success. At this time, I'd like to also introduce our coaching staff, starting with Mr. Ricky Guzman, our head coach. Jesse Flores. Henry Beltran. And Steve Torres. So if we could just kind of like get together in a tight group right here and maybe take a knee. Maybe take a knee, so you guys, is that okay? Thank you so much, and congratulations once again. Before we excuse you from the meeting here, we do have pizza for all of you guys. So afterwards, Ms. Cristina Lopez will direct you to our pizza out here. But I would like to ask our head coach, Mr. Ricky Guzman, to share a few words at the podium.
Get up here with me. Thank you, board, and everyone who's here for showing up and recognizing these guys. If anything, with this group here, I told them before, a lot of times I get the rap that I'm tough on kids, but the reward is always one thing, and that's discipline. And I think life and the game and the process of growing up is kind of like this, but commitment has to be a straight line. And that's the one thing that these guys were held to all year. And it's not about me, it's about the standard that my coaches, that carries over to Mr. Velez and Mano, who's not here today, because we hold these kids to a tight line. And there's no like, ask mom. If mom says no, ask dad, because dad's going to say yes. So for me, it's rewarding to know that these guys earned every single bit of what they received this year. Because if they were late, they weren't playing. If they didn't show up to practice, they weren't playing. We finished the year with 13 kids, and there's a little kind of quote we have. It's in Spanish, and it's sumar por restar. You know, it's addition by subtraction. We make sure that everyone's going to be in it for the right reasons, be committed to each other, and we had our ups and downs this year, and it was a struggle. And I think we saw some of the excitement when we peaked at the right time towards the end of the year, but really these kids were in the weight room from when school started. We were in the weight room twice the week, the Saturday that we won the title. So, you know, a lot of the things that a lot of people don't see is the commitment and the standard. And for me, it's not, like I said, it's not about me, it's about my staff, because my staff is as important. But even I met with Mr. Jimenez when the year started. People here in this room, Mr. Emilio, other people who I can go to when, you know, I got an issue at the field, or, you know, there's a lot more that goes into it, but I'll just let you know that it's about discipline. It really is. And sometimes it's tough because, you know, these guys, it's the rope isn't always that tight from 8 to 3, and they get with me, and it's pretty tight. But like I said, that's why it's, you know, I commend my coaching staff, because, you know, without them and without the expectations, even from parents, a lot of times my players didn't get grounded until they didn't start, and they found out, oh, he was late to class. So all of a sudden he got grounded. So it was, you know, but for me, I raised them the way I raised my kids, and if discipline is not for them, then it's not going to be very fun for them, you know. So once they embraced discipline and they embraced that the struggle and the stress that comes your way is how we grow as people, I think that's when we took off, and I really commend them, because Coach didn't give any speeches for about half the year. He was like, you know what, they know what to do. They know what to do, and when they figured it out, it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. And again, I thank you guys, and I've always told them that it's fun to compete and win, but it's always better when there's an X on your chest, and now it's time to play with an X on our chest. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Guzman. So thank you, Mr. Guzman, and coaches and baseball team. You definitely don't have to stay. You're more than welcome to stay if you like. But at this time, we do have some nice warm pizza from Howie's for you guys ready right outside. And Ms. Lopez will help you over there, and enjoy your pizza. Congratulations. Have a fun and safe summer. Thank you very much. All right. Wow. You've been playing baseball your whole life. You're going to be good.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah? There you go. There you go. I like that. I like that.
Dad, really,
You
really,
know,
one more year and he wants to get coaching. Graduated.
sir. Thank you. All right.
Congratulations.
Okay.
So C, public hearing. Number 1, I understand that there's gonna be a presentation.
Yes, there is, Ms. Magallanes. So at this point, I'd like to ask our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services to the podium, as there's going to be a brief presentation on our proposed budget for the 23-24 school year.
The front seats are available, right?
Yes, they are now available. All seats are available now.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Mr. Jimenez, and everyone present with us tonight. My name is Maribel Paez, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. And now we presenting our 22-23 estimated actuals and 23-24 July 1st original budget report. Or budget process. Per Education Code 42127, school districts in California must adopt an approved budget, July 1st budget, called the original budget, no later than 5 days after the adoption of our July 1st enacted budget, which is when our Governor Newsom will be signing our budget, or by July 1st. So right now, tonight, I'll be presenting our 22-23 estimated actuals along with our original budget. Our estimated actuals budget report is actually how we are predicting to close the year. And this is as we're going to close our revenues and expenditures as of June 30, 2023. And we still, remember, we have to, right now, after we present the original budget and estimated actuals, we have to close our books. And that presentation is actually, we have to close our books by September 15. So this is when, for example, all of the invoices that we receive in July, all of the materials and supply, all of our consultants and services that are done by June 30th, all those have to be accounted for, and all of those last year-end journal entries have to be made in order for us to close our books. So that will happen on September 15th. But right now, this is the best estimated actuals as of 6:30 that we're presenting to the community and to our Board of Trustees. One of the things that I do want to mention right now, this is the governor's 23-24 budget reflects difficult decisions right now due to an increased deficit revenues over our personal income taxes, sales tax, and corporation tax. So our revenue at the state level, our general fund, and just to note, school districts in California, we receive 40% of our general fund state budget, California state budget. So whenever they have a reduction in revenue, that affects our Proposition 98, which is how schools get funded. So everything that affecting the economy at the state, nationwide, it also affects, school districts. So right now, and just in the meantime, legislation continues to negotiate with the Governor Newsom, as I'm speaking right now, administration on the final 23-24 state budget. So he still has a few days before, to adopt or enact a budget. It has to be done by July 1st. Another thing that I do want to note is that all of these reports, everything that I'm presenting with you tonight, all of these reports are being audited and monitored by Imperial County Office of Education. We also have our independent consultant auditors, and we also, all of these reports also sent to our California Department of Education for review. These are our 22-23 second interim versus our estimated actuals. So this is actually a comparison on how by second interim that was presented back in March, how with all the changes in the May revise, all the changes that we're facing, now we have a more close estimated actual. So really how we are projecting to close the year end. So one of the things here that the changes will be the 4 column on the table that changes. LCFF sources, which is the main resource of our revenue, local control funding formula, that we did get a little augmentation of about 218,000, and that's due to a new calculator that we received from FICMAC, and that had an updated ADA reflecting our 22-23 P2 attendance report. For all of the rest of our revenues, federal, state, and local, you see a reduction there of about a total reduction of 4.9. That it's not, it doesn't mean that we got a reduction of revenue. It means that all those revenues that we did not, where we're not able to spend this year, they're carrying over to 23-24, and I'm going to be explaining a little later how that's happening. But we have right now a lot of unearned revenue and carryover that is actually being carry over to the year 23-24. We also got for other local revenues an increase of cash interest earned due to the deposit of one-time funds. So this year, one of the major things that we received, it was from Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant one-time funds. We received 16 million in the books this year. And this is, of course, to address instructional learning, tutoring, learning recovery programs. They're proposing to the number of instructional days. So there is a lot of money out there to really address, learning recovery. We received those monies, those 16 millions this year, but we were not able to spend those monies yet, as we barely received the 16 million. And one of the things, if you've been following the budget, is that we have been receiving a lot of one-time funds. And with that, of course, there have been coming a lot of plans. They call it the pandemic, because we have done with all these one times, we have done a lot of plans, that go along with the expenditures. So right now, those 16 millions have not been spent. So the majority of the 16 millions are going to be carrying over for 23-24. We have until 2028 to spend those funds. When you do any changes to your revenue and allocations, you also have to do that with your expenditures as well. So all of those reductions in expenditures, as you can see, of the 19 million, that's also a reflection of all that money that are being carried over to 23-24. So overall, the beginning fund balance doesn't change. That's the beginning fund balance as of July 1st, 2022, which is for 42 million. But if you do add or excess of revenues over expenditures, and you see the estimated actuals for second interim, we were estimating having a surplus of about 7.3. Now we have a surplus of about 22.1 and that's due to all those one-time funds that were received this year, but that we were not able to spend. Those are restricted funds, and I'm going to go over it right now so you can see where those monies are allocated. The ending fund balance projection for June 30, 2023 is about the 64.7 million. It's not working. Can you move to the next slide, please? Assumptions and planning factors for 23-24 and our multi-year projections. These are all the key assumptions that are given to all the districts to put together your multi-year projections and your 23-24 original budget. One of the things, for example, is your enrollment, to project your enrollment. We were at 23-24, we were at 8,353. That projection for 23-24 is to drop about 193 students, so that will be around 8,160 for 23-24. And all of this is actually based on our analysis for experts or consultants doing a demographic and enrollment projection analysis of our district. We're been declining since 2018 about 250 students. And this is all California. We are having a declining enrollment in the state of California. Funded ADA, one of the things I do want to address here for the funded ADA, legislation did put for us to mitigate the problem that we had, not only because we were declining enrollment in California, but we were also facing chronic absenteeism, which is a yield of about 91% right now. And just so everybody understands, we do not get funded by students enroll. We get funded by students coming to school every day. So that's our attendance yield. Our attendance yield right now is at 91%. Before our pandemic, we were about close to 96%. So as you can see, we have really declined our attendance yield. So that's something that we really need to look into. Right now, for funded average daily attendance, or we have been funded 8,217, when our current ADA is 7,723. So the state is helping us mitigate all of that loss and everything that we face by giving us a 3-year average ADA. So they're letting us use 2021, 21, 22, 23, 22, 23. So they're letting us use all those prior year attendance to be funded right now. So we're at 8,217. Then we have our unduplicated pupil count, and that's status quo. We have our cost of living adjustment. It's still the latest information from legislation is that we're at 8.22% COLA for next school year. State lottery, that stays status quo. Our costers also stays at status quo at 19.10. CalPERS employer rate, that it is projected to continue to go up. We're right now projected for 23-24 to be at 26.68. And then you see how 24-25, it goes up to 27.70 and then 28.30. Our contributions to restricted programs continue to raise. That is the contribution for all of our a restricted program, which is a special education and a routine restricted maintenance for the, to keep up with all of our buildings. We do have to contribute 3% of our unrestricted general funds to a restricted fund to be able for us to track all of those expenditures and make sure that our buildings are maintained. We also have our local control accountability plan, or LCAP, that we also, it's part of our public hearing tonight and adoption at the end of the month. That is the calculation for supplemental and concentration is about 38 million. That's how much we have to contribute for all those support activities under local control accountability plan. Then our unemployment insurance rate did decrease to, we were at 0.50 and now we are at 0.05. So that's good news. Then minimum wage, as everybody knows, it's also going up in January 1st to $16, and then it is projected to go up to $16.50 and then $16.90. These are our multi-year projections. As part of the original budget, a school district must show a multi-year projection, which meaning that we can actually prove that we can meet our expenditure obligations this coming year, 23-24, and our 2 subsequent years, which will be 24-25 and 25-26. So for 23-24, the restricted, and this is all the one-time funds. So our first, all those columns that you see in green is a restricted side of the house, meaning all of those are allocated, the majority for any, supplemental support activities, and they all are actually earmarked for either they have a plan or something that we have to follow, but they are restricted funds. All of this for 23-24. The revenue, it is projected to be about 63.5 that we will be receiving in 23-24. Then the total expenditures for 22-24 is about 87 million, giving us a deficit spending of 24 million. Now, what I do want to state here is that this is not a true deficit spending. Right now, at the beginning of my presentation, I did stated that we received 16 million for one-time funds under learning recovery. So what that does is carry over to my beginning balance for 23-24. So this is not that we have really a deficit spending, but meaning that you can only recognize revenue once in either so we're recognizing revenue 22-23 because those revenues we receive them in 22-23. So what happens with that revenue that we did not spend? It carries over, giving us a beginning fund balance for July 1st of 31 million. So it's not right now the issue that a lot of the school district and CBOs are facing, there is not consistency in the restricted side of the house because of all the one-time funds that we're receiving in our budget. There is, there's actually no consistency from one year to another. We lack one time, ESSER 2 and ESSER 1 funds are gone, but now we have ESSER 3 that we have to spend, and plus additional one-time funds as well. So there's not a consistency on our restricted side of the house. In the unrestricted side of the house, it pretty much everything stays status quo. This is for all the core base, all of our expenditures. This is where we pay our teachers, instructional materials, everything that we're required to have. It comes from the unrestricted side of the house. Any ongoing expenditures, any negotiation settlements, anything like that, it has to come from your unrestricted side of the house. The unrestricted side of the house, we are projecting for 23-24 to receive 117 million. We're projecting to spend about 114 million, giving me a surplus of 2.9. That goes from the beginning fund balance, 33 million, it goes to 36 million for 23-24. Then for 24-25, we're projecting to receive 117 from revenue. And as you can see here, you're going to say, why there's not such a big difference from one year to another? Even though we are already including the COLA for all of these years. We do have to include all of the COLA, as remember the calculator is self-help calculator. It's actually provided by us by FIGMAC and Imperial County Office of Education. So we do have to use those numbers. The reason that it's not really changing here is because we do have is the impact of ADA. So even though we're receiving a COLA, or ADA is actually reducing, is declining. So we're pretty much getting a status quo in revenue as well. So we're not receiving, the 3%, the 3.98 COLA that is also projected for 24-25. Once you add all the ADA that we're losing, it gives you like less than a 1% increase for 24-25. Then under combined, general fund combined, which is you need to combine your restricted and unrestricted that is part of general fund. For 23-24, the total combined unrestricted and restricted is about 181 million. The expenditures is 202, giving us a deficit spending of the 21 million. That is we are also projecting to start the year, the beginning fund balance with the 64 million. And then if you add the deficit, that gives us an ending fund balance 6/30/2024 of 43 million. And then for 24-25, the combined for revenues is 156 million. The total expenditures, 160 million, giving us a deficit of about 4 million. And then for 25-26, the revenue is 156 million. with a projection of about 157 million, with a beginning fund balance of 39 million and an ending fund balance in June 30 of 2026 of 38 million. Any questions, Board of Trustees?
For 23, for 24, 25, 25, those are just ballpark. We don't have the governor's budget yet or.
No, but we do have, yes, but we do have assumptions, and we do have a calculator that is giving us. The calculator does includes all of our upcoming years with the COLA that the governor is already proposing. So all those assumptions they're provided by government, those are the assumptions that we have to use for our multi-year projection.
I do have a question.
Mhm.
As we go back, when we go back to the assumption and planning factors,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, I forgot to mention it, but the workman's comp.
Workers,
Workman's comp, I mean, according to your past records or your statements, 7.9 is equivalent to almost $6 million.
yes, correct.
So, I mean, I see it that we're not even trying to reduce this. I mean, we're just 7.9 throughout the years. And I thought we were working on a program to try to reduce our workman's compensation.
And we are. So if you see at previous budgets, I actually included like a 0.2 or 5, 2 between 2 and 5%, because our workers' comp was increasing. But luckily, right now, with all the help of, human resources, risk management, we are reducing workers' comp. So because you always have to be very conservative when your budget. Right now, the best estimate is to leave that number as is, even though it has been declining. Little, but last year we were at 8.2. Now we're at 7.92. So that percentage is going. It is decreasing. So I just made how do you say that word? An assumption of leaving workers' comp status quo, knowing that it might be lower, even lower than that. But for other years, I actually was increasing it about 2 to 5, 2 to 0.0 to 0.05, because it was actually increasing every year. But I have from 2 years already, it's been decreasing.
So if I could add to that a little bit, Mr. Calderon. So you're absolutely right. In Calexico, and I don't really know the reason why, but we are incredibly higher on our workers' compensation rates, the amount of employees that submit for workers' comp, than what is the average in the county and in the state of California. The average is about 3%, and we have been a little bit over 8%, almost 3 times what the average workers' comp claims are in the state. As I said, we're very glad that with the programs we're implementing and putting in place to start addressing that increased cost that comes out of our general funds. And so when we're looking at, for example, even like negotiations, or we're looking at benefits, when we're looking at that sort of stuff, the money that we pay for workers' comp comes out of that bucket, comes out of that bank account, if you will. So the better job we're able to do in decreasing the workers' comp, the more money it'll free up, so that we could do more with other things. But as hopefully we continue to work on the workers' comp and decrease it, then we'll be able to reflect those numbers. For example, there's at our first interim report, right around October, we do our first interim report, and then we come back to the board and we show, we make those adjustments. We say we have new workers' comp numbers, for example, possibly, and here they are. Now we're reflecting that on our budget. By our second interim report, we could budget report, we could actually do the same thing as well. So we'll be adjusting as we go through. For right now, instead of increasing workers' comp, we're keeping it at status quo. But of course, our plan is and desired outcome is that we reduce workers' comp from a very, very high percentage here in Calexico Unified, and hopefully get it down to or below the state average of 3%.
Mhm. Right now from our consultant Keenan that does all the analysis, that, you know, goes over the claims and goes over all of the payroll information. They are giving us the 7.92 for all 23-24. That's the percentage right now. I'm not sure if it's gonna change in the middle of the year, but they do the final analysis about April of each year, and they go over all the claims that were submitted that year and everything, and they come out with a new rate every year. Any other questions? Okay. I just wanted to show the one-time funds because I know that it's you know, it's just is more like for us visually see the lack of one-time funds from one year to another. For 22-23, all we had, you know, about the 59 million on one-time funds. Then for 23-24, it goes to 20 million. And then you see the lack of those one-time funds from one year to another. And 22-23, and the last one, which is Research 7435, that's the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant that we receive. And those funds, we receive those funds in 22-23. Those are the funds that are being carried over for 23-24. And then our components of ending fund balance as part of our MYP. This is all the components of ending fund balance for restricted and unrestricted. New requirements of Senate Bill 751, a district needs to maintain a maximum unassigned fund balance of 10%. The recommended reserve level for local government by the Governmental Finance Officers Association is 17% minimum, which covers around 2 months of payroll. To protect its students and employees by having a moderate reserve to endure bad economic times. A state mandate is a 3% reserve, will only cover about 2 weeks of district expenses, which will be highly risky and irresponsible. Any questions on this slide?
I do have one more question, and it's regarding the one-time funds. Are we on schedule as far as spending these funds?
Yes, we are.
We're not gonna return anything back. We maximize a lot of our restricted one-time funds to free up my unrestricted. So everything that is allowable is an allowable expenditure because we do get heavily monitored by FPM, by all of our auditors, especially all of our federal funds and state. So everything that I can use those funds to mitigate my unrestricted, that's, you know, the approach we take as a district. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Any questions on the components of ending fund balance? As you can see, one of the things, because they're not letting districts leave a lot of unassigned fund balance, is that we are committing some of those. Either you have to assign or commit. We do have a lot of school facilities improvements, and we have textbook adoptions as well that we're looking into. One of the, as budget development, one part of my meetings when it met with curriculum and also educational services is that we are, our math adoption expires 2022, or already expired. Our English expires 2024. Then we have our science expiring in 2028. So that is something that we have to get ready for, because I know that the State Board of Education is actually, you know, looking into that framework, and it is something that is actually coming up where we have to adopt English and math. And Ms. Pius, just because we have the public here, can you tell us how much book adoption costs, so they all know why we're putting all these funds?
The last time, about 2015, when we did the English, we spent about 7 million. And on the math, we spent about 4. And remember, we have inflation and all of that now that it's hitting us, so we're probably calculating about 13 to 14 million that we might need for the, you know, upcoming years. So it's something that we have to prepare. It's something that I did not put in the budget yet, but we do have to start making, you know, assigning those funds to what is coming. Mm-hmm. And then this is just a breakdown of a lot of the facilities needs that we have, making a master plan priority list. We have limited resources and a high number of district-wide school improvements due to aging facilities. We have schools that are very, very old, and there are things that we just need to upgrade. We have parking areas that need to be upgraded, roofing repairs, drinking fountains, restrooms, new carpets, and so on. It's just so many needs that we have district-wide on our school facilities. And then fiscal challenges ahead, declining enrollment in ADA, attendance adjustments provided in 21-22 will no longer factor in our average in 25-26. And I just put a quick table of why I'm stating that the average on 25-26, and that's because if you in 25-26 we're gonna be getting the attendance of 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25. So the 21-22 bigger number, it's no longer gonna be a factor for the 3-year average. In 25-26, the district will then feel the true impacts of COVID attendance loss. Additionally, in 25-26, the district will have fully expended the majority of one-time funds or high contributions to unfunded programs like special education and routine restricted maintenance account, or pension employer rate increases, inflation, and the decline of state revenue. Some of the options that they have to address their deficit spending is options include revenue deferrals, reserve account withdrawals, and COLA deficits. And just as a closing note, the district continues to protect a healthy balance and reserve, which will help us sustain and meet our financial obligations for the 23-24 budget year and subsequent 2 fiscal years, 24-25 and 25-26, based on current projections. Any questions? Thank you. And I just want to really quick thank staff because it is a lot of work to put together a budget. So I do want to, kudos to everyone that is part of a budget development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pius. Great presentation. Number 2.
So,
Oh, okay.
thank you, Ms. Magallanes. So at this point, the Board of Education will conduct a public hearing to allow the public input regarding the district proposed budget for 2023-2024 school year. I'd like to open the public hearing if there's any comments on the proposed budget. Okay, seeing none, we close the public hearing, and we're ready to move on to number 2.
Number 2, the Board of Education will conduct a public hearing on the Local Control Accountability Plan LCAP and the budget of the district of the year ending June 30th, 2023. Do we have a presentation?
No, the presentation for this one is the public hearing first, and the presentation will be on the 29th. But today is the public hearing, so I'd like to open up the public hearing for the Local Control Accountability Plan LCAP and the budget of the district for the year ending June 30, 2023. If there's anyone who wishes to make a comment on this public hearing on this topic. Seeing none.
I'm sorry.
Mr.
So
Contreras.
as of today, the whole report is on a draft format, correct?
That's correct.
And then that's on the draft format, that's the action that we will be taking on the next meeting.
That's exactly correct.
Thank
Yes, Mr. Contreras. Seeing none, we
Have a printout, a copy of it?
it is. I'd like to ask Ms. Elisa Ramirez. It is available, but I'll have Ms. Ramirez, who's oversees our LCAP development.
Good evening, Superintendent Jimenez, trustees, and members of the public. Yes, we did put a physical. We have 2 physical copies at the front desk for any public that wants to keep a copy of the LCAP. They can actually take it with them if they want.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. So seeing no comments, we could close the public hearing at this point and move on to public comments for closed session.
So D, public comments, Mr. Roman Gerardo.
Hello, before my clock starts, is this thing working? Oh, it is. Last time it wasn't. Good evening. Gerardo Roman, Calexico High School, 9th grade, agriculture, career education teacher. Good afternoon, everyone, school board members, superintendent, public. Our school year ended, and it was a challenging year. It took some getting used to for our 9th graders to get used to coming back to traditional schedule and traditional school environment. But with your support, we ended successfully. So thank you so much for the opportunity to serve our students for another school year. About a year ago, you approved the 22-23 agricultural incentive grant for $24,860. We received an increase of $6,000 for a total of $30,860, which, looking at that budget, is a drop in the bucket. And the ag incentive grant can be termed as a teacher-led grant, but it does involve everyone, not just the teachers, but site administrators, site staff, school district staff, and administration, and you, the board, to approve it and to support it with matching funds. Last year's grant was supposed to be used to purchase a new ag vehicle. God knows we need it. And this vehicle purchase is still in the works, from what I understand. But the new ag incentive grant is going to come before you at the next school board meeting. Ms. Croak-Pollins has worked arduously on the 23-24 agricultural incentive grant application, and we will potentially receive $26,770. We would like to use 3/4 of that for school farm enhancements that we also need, and 1/4 for travel and repairs. And so you'll be seeing that in your agenda for you to take action at the next board meeting. I personally strive to get my agriculture students to improve their leadership skills, personal growth, and career readiness, and I push them to go out there and advocate for themselves. So even on the last school day, it was disheartening to hear my students come back disillusioned after talking to their counselor. They have shared how she has demoralized them. They express an interest in agriculture only to be reprimanded by her. They repress an interest in following something only to be just totally, I don't know, their spirit just comes back broken as they share with me. And I'll tell you, our 9th grade students need a positive and supportive environment with interventions to assist them in the successful completion of their courses. If our 9th graders fail, they fall behind, and they spend the rest of their high school years struggling to make up those credits. So this limits their possibilities to explore college and career opportunities and to stay motivated and to come to school. Thank you. My time's about up.
Thank you, Mr. Gerardo.
Thank you.
Number 2, Mrs. Gonzalez Teresa.
Good evening, members. Good evening. I'm here speaking on behalf of Armando Montoya and your decision regarding his employment. I'm not sure how much you know Armando, so I find it important to share a few characteristics that may sway your decision. First of all, Armando is extremely friendly. Anybody who knows him, he's well known, well liked, well received. Ask anybody. I'm from Imperial, and I'll ask anybody who goes, hey, do you know Armando Montoya? Oh yeah, he does this, he does this. He's extremely friendly. He's also generous with his time, generous with his resources. Just a quick example of his generosity. I called him the other day, and he picked up a homeless man and took him to Hopeville to cash his cans because the man was needing it. It was Friday, and that's who Armando is, generous. Armando is hardworking. He's worked for the district for over 16 years. He would work Saturdays, overtime, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and never did I hear him complain about his employment. In fact, he pride on his employment. When I would come to games, he'd walk me around and say, look, we did this, we did that, check out this, we put this together, and talk about his future plans on what he plans to do with his schoolwork. Why? Because he loves his work. My brother is unique in the most special way. This is not a biased testimony. There are a few of us here who can attest to what I just shared with you. If you're here supporting Armando, would you please stand up? And these are just the few that we invited. As you go into your closed session, I ask for you to consider how Armando Montoya contributes to the Calexico District community. Thank you.
Cázares Crystal.
So, I want to give the mic to our CSEA. I'm Crystal Cáceres. I am CSEA's first VP. I'm going to give the mic to Gabriel.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendente Jimenez, Ms. Janet Burgos. Good evening, public. So I would like to introduce you the executive board for CSEA Chapter 399. So if they're present, please join us. So Crystal Cáceres, Vice President. Second VP, Miguel Juarez. Secretary, Esperanza Amial. Treasurer, Lorena Gastelum. Chapter Communication Officer, Juan Ferraez. And if allowed, I'm going to introduce you to the negotiating team, which we are in negotiations at this time. Jose Alejos, Soledad Cañez, Marta Cubarrubias, Carmela Pérez, Elizabeth Ruelas, Jose Pérez, Alejo Cortés, Victor Lara, Victor Saldaña, Sonia Osuna, and Chairperson Pat Bristol. If she's present, would you want to, or you're more than welcome, Pat.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Jimenez, and staff, and all Calexico School District and visitors. I'm Pat Bristol, the lead negotiator for classified employees, and I want to thank you for allowing us to be able to negotiate in good faith, and we plan to have a good year. And on my team, Mr. Lara, Ms. Carmela, Ms. Osuna, and we have some missing, like Mr. President said, Mr. Gable Herrera, and I just want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to introduce ourselves, and we look forward to better years. Thank you.
Before we end, I would like to take time also, Ms. Daniela Vega, present. So she is also the laborer for CSEA. So thank you so much. Great evening.
De La Rosa Chris.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Executive Cabinet, Ms. Janet, of course. I want to speak to you also about what Ms. Terry talked about, Armando Montoya. This is a tough subject to deal with because I never expected this person to be before the board in closed session with something that's at stake so important. He's supported by his lovely family, supported by friends as they testified when they stood up. You can see the amount of people here. This is a person that is extremely well liked. Because you're extremely well liked doesn't mean you're going to be liked by every single person. I was his immediate supervisor for 9 years. I went through trials and tribulations with Armando. I had my own problems with employees. So Armando was always there. When I went through very stressful times, Armando was always there to pick me up, to talk sense in when I wanted to do crazy things, because it was real bad. Okay, so I really appreciate that kind of friendship that I built with him. But one of the things that I think is missing that everybody seems to forget is the language, the due process, where it says that you could, depending on the offense, you can skip steps. That's not in there. The spirit of that language is not for, so you can go all the way to the top on something that's of medium level, in my opinion, because I've seen many cases. Precedents have been set. People have hit other people with shovels and returned with not even a letter. Other offenses have been made, not even close in comparison. But one of the things is when an employee gets in trouble, it's important for the supervisor to supervise him and always reinforce that action doesn't happen again. I used to always do that with every one of my employees. I was always not safeguarding, but caretaking so they wouldn't make the same mistake again. I haven't been here in 6 months. Since I left, there's nobody providing that service. Unfortunately, it's not at the level that I used to provide because I knew from the inside out what the situations were. So it's really hard. So you need to consider that when you're not supervising them properly, and considering those things, you're going to have lapses in judgment. You're going to have lapses in actions that aren't fully supported by everybody. But consider everything that he brings to the table. He's one of your most skilled employees in the district. There's nobody in the district that can do his job. I'll tell you right here and challenge anybody to tell me. Nobody. You can try to, and you see results that are not the same level. All of the athletic fields and everything, he was one of the biggest components. One of the biggest components of the success of that. Yeah, we could plan it. Another gentleman here who left, he went to the IID. He's here in support. Those people had the initiative. Those people were the setters of the pace. So I know my time is up, and I appreciate you not cutting me off, but thanks. Bye.
Announcement of convenient into closed session. We'll be back at 6 p.m.
Yep.
Oh,
7.
7. We'll be back at 7 p.m.